In the top stories, Education Ministry emphasizes importance of recent e-waste workshop. Regional leaders agree violence is a public health issue, and U.S. officers won't be charged in grievous Jayland Walker killing. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Tuesday, the 18th of April 2023. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the Ministry of Education is extolling the importance of a recent e-waste management workshop. Stakeholders in the Enhancement and Learning Continuity and Inclusion project participated in a consultation on e-waste management held at the Solid Waste Management Corporation conference room on Wednesday, April 12. The goal is to avoid the improper disposal of electronic waste. According to the Ministry of Education, the increase in use of electronic devices such as the Federation incorporates digitalized learning into its curriculum has resulted in a surge in e-waste which requires specialized disposal. During the consultation, Director in Education Management Information System Christopher Herbert stated, quote, "With the number of devices that were procured, it was realized very quickly that there was a bit of a challenge with regards to the responsible disposal of the devices. At the end of the lifespan of the devices, there is a responsibility, a requirement for the disposal of these devices." Explaining the impact of improper disposal of e-waste on the environment, Mr. Herbert said, quote, "There is quite a bit of hazardous material in every device that we use, from mercury to cadmium to lithium to arsenic. Upon disposal, we see some of these hazardous materials being leached into the ground. We see it over time perhaps being absorbed into the soil, perhaps even into the groundwater if so irresponsibly disposed. With it being incinerated, we see quite a number of carcinogenic toxic fumes being released into the atmosphere. The need for the responsible disposal of our technology devices is what created the need for the e-waste management project," end quote. The stakeholders from the Department of Environment Bureau of Standards, Solid Waste Management of both St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Ministry of Education discussed a plan which aims to structure a phased approach to addressing both medium and long-term responsible technology disposal, as well as avenues for awareness building, e-waste policy advocacy, and enhanced practices for the disposal of e-waste. Online ordering is coming to the Bastille Public Market as the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Kitts explores ways to boost customer traffic and enhance sales as well as improve services for vendors using the facility. On the April 12 edition of the radio and TV program In Focus, excuse me, Miguel Fleming, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, said that the online option would be facilitated via the website www.agriculture.gov.kn. He noted that the system is expected to come online before the end of the second quarter of the year. The website is currently under maintenance as technicians from the Information Technology Department are updating and reconfiguring the website to be more user-friendly and to facilitate the new feature. Mr. Fleming also stated that additional measures are under consideration to drive traffic to the public market, including a drive-through and organized shopping trips for larger groups.
Once vendors know for sure that once they go into the public market, they'll be able to get their produce sold, they'll be willing to stay in the market and come back to the market. So currently that is not happening, but we have started a discussion looking at allowing persons to actually drive into the market. You pull off for a few minutes, buy your produce, and then you can leave. And we're also looking at, on our website, by giving persons the opportunity to now order their produce and just drive across where the public market and pick up your produce.
He noted that more produce is purchased from supermarkets which also feature imported goods. To support local, the ministry strongly encourages buyers to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, meat, fish, and more at public markets. In other news, the St. Kitts Electricity Company, or SCELEC, will now focus on upgrading its fleet of generators with an additional 3 megawatts of generating power. This comes after an announcement by the Minister of Utilities, the Honorable Congress Maynard, that a new alternator was installed in a 6 megawatt generator recently. During an April 14 walkthrough of the SCELEC Needs Must power plant by Minister Maynard, he said, quote, "This week we're testing out and having under observation the new alternator that has been added to G1, which is a 6 megawatt generator at the plant. This means that in a short time they will officially hand over to operations added capacity of 6 megawatts of power to the plant. This is great news, as this means that we have added more capacity so that we can complete other tasks in the plant, such as attacking other generators," end quote. The Ministry of Utilities is seeking to complete another upgrade by the end of the year by adding another 3 megawatts of extra capacity to the power station. Moving now to news on the regional scene, CARICOM leaders met on Monday to discuss violence as a public health issue. The two-day regional crime symposium is being hosted by the government of Trinidad and Tobago at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell has more in this report.
CARICOM leaders met on Monday to discuss violence as a public health issue. The two-day regional crime symposium is being hosted by the government of Trinidad and Tobago at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell has more in this report.
Crime and the consequences of crime are devastating the region. This from Chairman of CARICOM and Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis. Prime Minister Davis noted more than a dozen murders are being committed in the region daily.
On a typical day, some estimates suggest that an average of 13 young adults between the ages of 16 to 30 lose their lives to violent crime in our region.
Meanwhile, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, CARICOM's head with responsibility for energy and security, highlighted the consequences of crime on our societies.
Violence in the Caribbean is a public health emergency which threatens our lives, our economies, our national security, and by extension, every aspect of our well-being.
Dr. Rowley indicated the local murder rate climbed to above 600 in 2022, a new record for this country.
In Trinidad and Tobago, in the years 2011 to 2022, we have lost and have had to grieve for 5,439 lives lost to violent murder, largely through the use of imported firearms and ammunition.
The two-day regional symposium on violence as a public health issue, the Crime Challenge, began at the Hyatt Regency on Monday. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell, TTT News.
The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, says regional heads of government need to cooperate to address the scourge of crime in the Caribbean. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell is here with the story.
Noting that since the Treaty of Chaguaramas was signed decades ago, security is the only pillar that has been added to the regional treaty in the last 20 years, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, said there are several areas for cooperation.
Why are we all putting money separately and individually in forensic labs? 2, why are we not doing and pooling training? Because most police services in this region do not have enough forensic people. The judges, we need to start rotating the use of judges and magistrates in the region to ensure that there is not the familiarity with counsel and other circumstances and the things that people take for granted.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, said there's a small minority of society which has chosen a life of crime.
Those who are in the Boy Scouts, the Cadet Corps, play steel band, play football, play cricket, get involved in community activities, go to church, all of these various things. You hardly see any of them in front of the magistrate or the judge.
The regional heads of state made their comments as they participated in a panel discussion on regional crime. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell, TTT News.
On Sunday, workers, youth, and militants of political and social organizations in Cuba, among others, commemorated the 62nd anniversary of the proclamation of the socialist character of their revolution in a political cultural act headed by President Miguel Diaz-Canel. More in this Telesur report.
The historic corner of 23rd and the 12th Avenue streets in Havana's Vidado district once again is a place to recall the glorious days of that April when Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro spoke in front of thousands of workers and farmers gathered at the central corner and proclaimed the socialist character of the revolution. This took place during the funeral honors for the victims of the cruel bombing carried out by the U.S. airplanes against the air bases of Ciudad Libertad, San Antonio de los Baños, and Santiago de Cuba. Washington's objective was to sow terror and confusion, to neutralize the air defense capabilities, and to facilitate the landing of the mercenary troops in order to cause a fracture in the Cuban Revolution.
Internationally, 8 police officers who shot and killed an unarmed black man in the U.S. state of Ohio will not face criminal charges. A grand jury cleared them of wrongdoing in the death of Jayland Walker last June in the city of Akron. His family is calling for people there to rally for justice and change. Al Jazeera's Heidi Castro has more.
Jayland Walker was 25 years old when police in Akron, Ohio tried to pull him over for a broken taillight last June. Ohio's Attorney General says Walker fired a gun at police from his car, then took off on foot. Police chased him, then shot him 46 times.
How does a traffic stop end like this? I can tell you the answer. It's because Jayland was black. Jayland was stopped because he was black. He was murdered because he was black. And there is no indictment today because he is black.
Monday's announcement that the 8 police officers involved will not face criminal charges has been met with anger from Walker's supporters.
There would be no peace in the state of Ohio. There would be no peace in America until black men are able to walk down the street without being gunned down. Until black men are able to wake up and walk outside without the fear of being murdered by state-sanctioned violence. We will not rest.
Akron has been on edge since some protests over Walker's death turned destructive last summer. Now the city has boarded up several government buildings in anticipation of more anger on the streets.
I would ask that during these times of tension and trauma, that you turn towards one another and not on each other.
I firmly believe that no Akron police officer in the course of their duties wants to discharge their firearm at another human being and resulting in the loss of life. Anytime that happens, it's a tragic day for our community and the Akron Police Department.
The police chief says the officers who shot Walker will remain on administrative duty as the department now launches an internal review. Meanwhile, Akron's congresswoman says she's asked the U.S. Department of Justice to launch a civil rights investigation. Heidi Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
At least 3 people have died and several others.
And now for the weather. Present weather is partly cloudy skies, and the temperature for today is 28 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are a gentle breeze of 10 miles per hour from the east. Seas are moderate with waves of 3 to 5 feet. A very dry and stable air mass will continue to linger across the area and restrict shower activity over and around the islands during the next 24 hours. The weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis says today will be partly sunny in general. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy and cool with a 20% or slight chance of a brief passing shower, mainly after midnight. Sunset today will be at 6:27 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 5:54 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.